The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
The following program is closed captioned for the thinking impaired.
By tomorrow, I will rule the world!
You think he's gone? He's not gone. That's the whole point. He's never gone.
Is this some radical new therapy?
You see?
Well, I must have not been paying attention when you were just talking to me. Do you think that you could repeat the question? And I listened more attentively. There must have been something in all of that nothing that wasn't quite so easy to see. And I must have missed something when you were just talking to me. I must have not been paying attention when you were busy slamming the door.
Why am I here?
I guess the things that pass for affection ain't the same as they were.
Because you love it.
There must have been something
There are times when I think we should go every other week.
nothing that dropped me like a stone to the floor.
Today is one of those days.
When you were just slamming the door.
I don't even have my sponsors up.
Oh, I don't mind just a little. It's driving me out of my mind. Oh, could you spare me the riddle and hand me a bottle or something that's hollow I can climb inside? It's a lifetime.
Everybody do the Bapa Bars now.
Starring you and
Alrighty, let's get this show on the road.
All right.
Yes. Hi, how you guys doing? My name's Tom Duggan here at the Paying Attention Podcast. Hi, Tom. Two Guys Smoke Shop at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. Still here. Still here.
We're still doing it.
Four plus years later, and we're still here. Can you just pull me down? I can't believe I'm saying down, but just a little bit. Yeah, for some reason I'm blowing my ears off. 4+ years here at the Paying Attention Podcast. I actually had the number on the last show, but it's like 32 years doing broadcasting, and I still come in from time to time and go, why am I doing this? I have so many things I could be doing in the middle of a Thursday afternoon, but I'm here for you. I'm here for you guys. And there are times when I come in and I do a great show, and then there are times when I come in and I think it's a horrible show. But the weird thing is that you guys always seem to have the exact opposite taste that I do. I come in and do a show and walk away and go, wow, that was horrible. And then I get a plethora of email from people going, that was the greatest show ever. And then I come in and we had Richard Lawrence, the civil rights leader, who marched with Martin Luther King. We had him here about a year ago. And I walked away going, you know what? That was literally the best show I've ever done. That was so friggin' educational. It was unbelievable. And we get 5 people watched. Yeah. So don't go by me, right? Because when you're the person doing it, it's hard to gauge. But I always like to get feedback, especially hate mail. We love the hate mail. And in fact, at some point in the next couple of weeks, I will come in. People keep begging for it. I keep saying I'm going to do it, but I'm actually starting to put some stuff together to come in and do a show where all I do is read hate mail. That's going to be kind of fun, I think. A lot of things to get to. Before we do, I want to start. I want to thank my sponsor. I want to thank Ronnie Marsan. We're going to mention him in a couple of seconds because there's a story going on that he's going to jump into. Ron Marsan and Marsan and Son Construction. If you need, I think I'm coming down with a cold. I can hear my voice sounds a little different today. But it's definitely not COVID because I can smell everything and I'm tasting everything, so I know I'm good. Marsan and Son Construction, you should give Ronnie Marsan a call if you need a new addition put on your house, if you need your roof fixed, if you need anything done construction-wise, or even if you got a big construction project, give Ronnie a call and tell him that you appreciate that he supports this program because he does. And he doesn't need the advertising. Trust me, the guy's... like my friend David Consoli at Pleasant Valley Landscaping, he doesn't need the business. They do it to support us. And so, in order to thank him, please, if you have construction needs, please call Ronnie Marsan. Same thing if you have landscaping needs, call Pleasant Valley Landscaping. We also want to thank Borelli's Deli, which is where I go to get my special hot sausages every Thursday right after the show. And by the way, the tortellini salad and the macaroni salad. I'm not a macaroni salad guy. I don't like macaroni salad in general. But I ordered the tortellini salad, and I think the girl gave me someone else's macaroni salad by accident a couple of months ago. Mm-hmm. And the macaroni, and I said, you know what, I might as well try it. I have it. It's here at home. And I ate, it was so good. Now I go back, and that's like a new part of like what I order. That's part of my regular order now. AFC Urgent Care. We're going to get Lisa on again. I think we're going to have her on with New Lawrence Mayor Brian DePina. We're working on a little project together where the city's going to make a little bit of money, and it's going to help AFC Urgent Care, and it's going to help a local kid. So I don't want to blow the lid off that, but they're going to be in at some point in the next few weeks. McLennan Real Estate, Century 21, home prices are still going up. The housing market is still absolutely unbelievable. I know because I'm looking, and we had Matt on the show, I think probably, 5 or 6 weeks ago now, and he's been coming on regularly, and he says that, no, there's no real estate bubble coming, at least as far as he can see. So if you're looking to buy or sell a house, you should be calling McLennan Real Estate. Tomo and Happy Crab. Tomo, a great hibachi food. We love Tomo. We've been to Happy Crab a couple times. It's pretty good, too. And a special shout-out to Clear Path for Veterans New England, who we're going to raise some money for at the Bash. We decided that half of our raffle money is going to go to Clear Path for Veterans New England because they are the guys that are helping veterans get off the streets, get service dogs, get the programs that they need, get the services that they need, and the insurance that they need. And speaking of insurance, we want to say hi to our good friend Mike Sullivan, who was here 3 weeks ago and never once mentioned the whole hour he was here. We had such a great show. He never once mentioned that he was just named chairman of the board of the new chairman of the board of the Merrimack Valley Chamber of Commerce. So we want to thank Mike Sullivan for coming, and we want to congratulate him for his position now on the Merrimack Valley Chamber of Commerce, which is great. Got a couple things I want to talk about. I'm going to jump around a little bit today. We actually had a guest booked and couldn't make it last minute, and we're going to try and get them in. We can't do it next week. Next week is going to be Pavel Payano. That's a show you're not going to want to miss. Pavel Payano is a Lawrence City Councilor at large, topped the ticket the last 2 times he ran. He is now running for Senate. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But he's going to be here next week. So we're going to throw some really tough questions at him. His political philosophy is way opposite of mine. So it's going to be fun. He is the front runner coming into this race, and I don't want to talk too much more about it because I'm going to get to that later on. We have a couple of updates for you. We have the Valley Patriots 18th Anniversary Bash coming April 8th. And we have secured a couple of people to do some entertaining for you. And drum roll, please, breaking news. Melvin Taylor will be starting the bash by singing the Paying Attention song.
Awesome.
So I know he's not feeling well, and he said, I'm not doing well. I'm not feeling that well, but I know that by April I ought to be able to come in and do at least one song. So he's going to come in. He's going to do. I think he's the only guy in the room that we pay. Because one year he's like, it doesn't really seem like worth my mile to get all my stuff, come down there, set up just for one song. And I was like, what if we give you $100? And he was like, for $100 I could probably do that. So he's in. And comedy by superstar comedian Eric Spagnoli, the Spags. Yes. He was my intern for a while. He wrote a couple of really great stories for the Valley Patriot. And then like all good reporters, like all good writers, he didn't last because he got offered something else that was way better than I could pay anybody. And he went and he's doing that now. And I don't hold that against anybody, trust me. I know we don't have a lot of money at the Valley Patriot to pay people. So when people come on board and then they end up going somewhere else for better money or for any money, because some people we don't pay at all, I never take it personal. And when he had to give me the bad news, he was like, Tom, I'm really sorry. I feel so bad to have to tell you this. And there's all these qualifiers. And I'm like, you're leaving, aren't you? And he's like, yeah, I'm leaving. I'm like, listen, don't feel bad about it at all. You're still part of the Valley Patriot family. When the bash comes, you still got to come, right? And he goes, yeah. And I said, and you're still going to perform, right? And he goes, yeah. So we called him this week and said, are you still in? And like most people who are part of the Valley Patriot family, even for just a little while, they always say yes. And he said, yep, I'm in. So we've got Eric Spagnoli who's going to be doing some comedy for us. And he's a pretty funny guy. So that's going to be fun. Tickets are $45 at the door, $40 in advance, tables of 10. are $375. Tables of 8 are $320. So you don't really get a discount if you get the table of 8, but if you buy a table of 10, you get a little bit of a discount. What else do we have on the Bash? Anything? All right, so I just want to give you a quick Bash update, then we'll talk about a few things. We have no donations yet for the Lawrence High ROTC Scholarship. We usually start that off at $1,400, but we have Eugene Smith, who is not feeling well. He's not doing well at all, actually. And our prayers go to him because we don't know how long he's going to be with us. So I'm not going to hit him up for money this year. But he usually starts this scholarship off with $1,200 to $1,400. That's usually our start-off point. So we're looking for somebody who would be interested in starting us off with maybe $1,000, a $1,000 donation for the Lawrence High ROTC Scholarship. And the Lawrence High Scholarship is the only scholarship we have where you actually get a tax write-off if you give us a donation, because you write your check directly to the Lawrence High Alumni Association, which is a 501c3, and then they send the money to the college for the kid. So if you do make a donation, $1,000 or more, or even just a little bit less, whatever you can give, that is tax deductible. We have our Greater Lawrence Vocational Scholarship. Normally, we have our friend the Midget, Mike Gagliardi, who's president of the Laborers Union Local 175, starts us off with $1,000 on that scholarship. I called him. He said he was in. I said, "Are you in this year for the Bash?" He said, "Yes, but let me call you back because I'm in the middle of something." Haven't touched base with him again to see what his base amount's going to be that he's going to donate. We're assuming it's $1,000, so we're just going to say $1,000 for now, but we'll give you an actual number next week. The Whittier Scholarship starts at $950, thanks to Al Velo, our good friend Al Velo, who started that scholarship. He's an alumni of Whittier. The Dan Cody Memorial Scholarship also starts at $950, thanks to Al Velo, who started that scholarship. We have the Michelle DeLuca Benedetti Scholarship, which starts at $200, because right before COVID, we were having some poker games to raise money for that scholarship. And we have at least 2. I think we have more. I'm going to check, but I know for sure we at least have $200 we're going to start that scholarship. And then we have a new scholarship. At the end of last week's show, we did a whole show on the Bash. Dave Garofalo, our good buddy Dave, came out and was chatting with me about the Bash. And he said, you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to give you guys $2,100 for another scholarship. $2,100 for a kid that's going into communications or broadcasting or media. So because we don't have a Methuen High kid, right? We have the Voc, we have Lawrence High, we have Haverhill High, we have Whittier, which is in Haverhill, and the Voc. But what we don't have is Methuen High. We always have a very hard time in Methuen because Methuen people are so overly political that they will take it out on you. If they don't like you, they'll take it out on the kid, right? And that's just because Methuen is Methuen is what Lawrence was in 1990. Trust me. So because Dave was nice enough to do that, I said, well, why don't we designate this for a Methuen High kid? And Mrs. Rouge called me this week, a woman that I went to high school with, and she said, hey, I saw that you're looking for a Methuen kid. I think she's on their alumni board, or she helps with that. And she said, I'd be happy to be your coordinator to try and help you find a kid that's going into media and broadcasting. So what we try to do on the committee, we have a bunch of people that get together because there's so much to do. Everybody gets designated with a task. Jessica Finicaro helped us to start the vocational scholarship at the Greater Lawrence Voc when she was on the Greater Lawrence Voc board. And so she came in with us the first year, and she's been with us ever since. And even though for the last couple of years we haven't really gotten along all that well, I called her last week, and she actually picked up the phone for the first time in 2 years. And we chatted. It was a little awkward, but kudos to Jessica for being the kind of person that the rest of her colleagues on the Methuen City Council pretend to be. She was totally willing to put aside the fact that we're not getting along and said, you know what, I'm in. I'll help you pick the kid from the Voc. I'll be there. I'll help you with the presentation. So thank you to Jessica for that. So those are our scholarship updates. We'll actually bring in like a little sheet that we'll put on the screen from now on, so you can see like where we are. A couple of other things. All right, so I had a couple other Bash things to get to, but I can see I've already eaten 8 minutes out of the show. So a couple things in the news. I want to talk about a local issue real quick. We learned from NBC 10 Boston yesterday that Methuen Mayor Neil Perry has decided that, based on an anonymous tip, Apparently, the city of Methuen has been plowing a road, plowing a street off Hampshire Street in Methuen, and it's a private road. I guess it's not a city road because it doesn't measure up to the specifications of what a city road would be. So it's considered a private road, and for the last 10 years, Methuen's been plowing it. And because of an anonymous tip that went to the mayor's office saying, "Hey, you shouldn't be plowing this road; it's a private road," the lawyers looked into it and said, "Yeah, you're right. This is a private road. We're not going to plow this anymore." And then notified them, I guess yesterday. So posted the story online on Facebook, and you know what? This is a testament to the Valley Patriot family once again. Once again, the people who are in our inner circle, the people who are always there when we reach out. We posted this story, just a regular news story from Channel 10. I didn't break the story. I didn't break it, so don't blame me. I got an immediate response from Ed Abdu on Facebook, who said, "You know what? Screw Neil Perry. I'm gonna plow their road for free on Saturday when it snows." And this morning I got a text at 9 o'clock in the morning. By the way, Ronnie, we don't do that at 9 o'clock in the morning. Usually after 12 is good. But I got a 9 a.m. text this morning from Ronnie Marsan from Marsan & Son Construction, who said, "Hey, guess what? I was so mad about what I saw in that story, I'm going to plow them for free on Saturday." So now you got two people in the community willing to help out the neighbors on Hampshire Street whose street will not be plowed thanks to the city of Methuen. I guess I'm of two minds on this, okay? In the first place, it's a situation that's been going on for 10 years. And I think if the city was going to decide not to plow the road anymore because of some anonymous tip. And by the way, we know what this anonymous tip really means. Somebody who doesn't like the property owner, somebody who doesn't like the developer of the property, somebody who doesn't like someone who lives there, tipped off somebody in the mayor's office. It was probably a city councilor. I don't want to say which, Jim McCarty, I suspect. But somebody tipped off the mayor's office, and they looked it up. In Neil's defense, they're not supposed to be plowing roads that aren't city roads, right? I mean, they shouldn't be plowing anybody's driveway because that's private property, and they shouldn't be plowing roads that aren't public roads. On the other hand, there's another way to do that, and I would think that Mr. Compassion, Mayor Compassion in Methuen, would have said, well, you know what, we get this big snowstorm coming up. Maybe we'll notify them that within 30 days we're going to stop doing it, just so that they can make arrangements. I mean, you've got all these neighbors now who have to kind of pool their money together to figure out how they're going to pay to have their street plowed. And there are senior citizens and disabled people on that street who, how are they going to get to the doctor's office if they have to? How are they going to get to the doctor or the dentist or to get food or whatever if they need to in the middle of a snowstorm if the city's not going to be plowing? And there hasn't been any arrangements made to plow their street. Yes, dear?
Neil Perry's commenting on your...
Oh, he is? Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Let's see what Neil Perry has to say. I feel bad that he's watching because I don't watch his, but let's see. He says, not a road, it's private property. Deed from June 2001 clearly states snow removal, sole responsibility of the homeowner. And that's fine. And again, I'm trying to see both sides here, right? Because there's no bad guy here. There's no demon here. But again, I think that the compassionate thing to do would have been to give them some time and say, you know what, we've been doing it now for 9 years. We probably shouldn't have been doing it. We shouldn't have been doing it. I'm going to give you guys 30 days, 90 days to get your act together and figure out how you can get your own thing done. I was a little surprised that I had to see it on NBC Channel 10, though. I would have thought somebody would have picked up the phone and called me. I would have liked that story. Although I'm pretty sure that the mayor probably wouldn't have returned my calls and given me a quote, but I at least would have made the effort to call the guy and ask him for a quote. But thank you to Ronnie Marsan and Ed Abdu, who both stepped up to the plate right away as soon as I posted the story and said, hey, look, these people need to have their thing plowed. We got a big snowstorm coming on Saturday, and we're going to take care of them. All right. What else do we have here? We've got the Supreme Court is the big story of the last couple of days. And I'm not sure why it was a story because the outgoing Supreme Court justice didn't announce that he was stepping down. Somebody else leaked it to the press. And the big story, especially on Fox, Fox is is obviously they're kind of right wing. This is my right, that's your left. Fox is kind of right wing, so they immediately jumped on the fact that President Biden, said during the campaign that he was going to appoint a black woman. And of course, the racism angle. Now, I'm not going to just repeat everything everybody on Fox says. I agree with them, though, that it is kind of racism. If Donald Trump had come out and said, my Supreme Court nominee is going to be a white man, I think there would have been, rightfully so, there would have been pearl clutching and screeching on CNN and every other network. And again, rightfully so. On the other hand, not so much when he comes out and he says equally racist things like, I'm going to appoint a black woman. Not a qualified woman, not a woman with great experience, but a black woman. So I started thinking about this, and I'm glad Neil's watching because he's the guy that always complains when he was on my show about the way I talk about women. I'm always talking about hot women, what they look like. And I started to think, what would a President Duggan do if I had a Supreme Court nomination to fill? And I think that during the campaign, I would promise that if you elected me, I would only appoint a hot redheaded woman. Because what's the difference, really, if you think about it? What's the difference between saying, I'm going to pick a black woman based on her looks and her gender, or I'm going to pick a hot redheaded woman based on her looks and her gender? Is there any, honestly, legitimately, is there any difference between these two things? I don't think there is. I don't think there is. The only thing that should be considered in finding a Supreme Court nominee, actually, I think there are two things. One, obviously, qualifications. The other is, what is their judicial philosophy? There are two philosophies when it comes to the Constitution, when it comes to the Supreme Court, when it comes to this issue. There are two major philosophies when it comes to the Constitution. One is that it's a living, breathing document that changes with the times whenever we want to. You know, things change and technology changes, so if it doesn't say it in the Constitution, it doesn't mean what it says. We can change the meaning as we go. That's the left-wing liberal Democrat philosophy. Democrat Party philosophy is it's a living, breathing document. The other philosophy happens to be my philosophy, and that is that the Constitution says what it means, and it means what it says, and if you want to change it, there's a mechanism to change it. You get 2/3 of the state to ratify the change. You have 2/3 of Congress and the Senate ratify the change, and the president signs the change. And that's how you make an amendment to the Constitution. For example, like it or not, agree with it or not, abortion is nowhere in the Constitution. It's just not there. And the Constitution specifically spells out that if there isn't anything specifically enumerated as a right in this Constitution, then it falls back to the states. Now, if the Supreme Court tomorrow decided that abortion was not, that to overturn Roe versus Wade and that abortion is not a constitutional right, that doesn't mean abortion stopped the next day. And I think a lot of people are confused by that. What it means is that it would leave it to the states. And quite frankly, that's constitutionally correct if you believe that the Constitution says what it means and means what it says. Unfortunately, we have an entire political party that doesn't want it to mean what it says. They want to write in the margins. They want to create rights. They think you have a right to gay marriage. It's nowhere in the Constitution you don't have a right to gay marriage. And by the way, you don't need a right to gay marriage. You can persuade your fellow citizens to call your local congressman and make it a federal law that gays can get married. It doesn't need to be a constitutional right because it's not in the Constitution. And each state can have their own restrictions on abortion if Roe v. Wade is overturned. In fact, there's a lot of different states that have different restrictions on abortion. In some states, you can get abortion on demand up until the moment of birth. Massachusetts, up until the moment of birth. During birth, you can change your mind and say, kill the baby. It's 9 months. And in Massachusetts, that's legal. In other states, you can't get an abortion after 3 or 5 months. In the Texas case, I think, which is the one coming up to the Supreme Court, they changed it to when there's a fetal heartbeat. You can't have an abortion after the baby has a heartbeat. All right. Now, what's interesting is that the people who cry about science, the people who talk about global warming and we have to wear masks and follow the science, we all know from Life Science 101 in 6th grade that life begins at conception. Hello? I mean, it's in every Life Science 101 book that life begins at conception. Whether it's a flower being pollinated by a bee or it's a human being, life begins at conception. So I'm not here to argue the abortion issue, but I want to use it as an example to show the importance of the court and the misunderstandings of the court. The court is not there to give you rights or to take rights away. The court is there to make sure that any laws that are written don't violate the Constitution and that the government is not violating individual rights. That's the reason for the Supreme Court. So at one point in this country, you didn't get Miranda rights if you got arrested. If a cop arrested you, you have the right to remain silent and you have the right to an attorney, but they wouldn't tell you that. They didn't have to tell you that. It was up to you to know that. And then a Supreme Court ruling came down and said, no. You've got to notify. You've got to tell people their rights when a cop arrests them. And because of that Supreme Court decision, cops all over the country, no matter what city or state you're in, no matter what small town you're in, no matter what little hovel you live in, if the cops arrest you, they have to tell you that you've got the right to remain silent, that you have the right to an attorney, that you have the right to a phone call, that you're innocent until proven guilty. Now, for those of you who believe that the United States Constitution is a living, breathing document that changes with the time because you want them to side a certain way on gay rights or side a certain way on abortion, be very careful what you ask for. Because I've said this before on the show, and whenever we talk about the Constitution, I'm going to say it again. If the Constitution is a living, breathing document that changes with the times, then, that provision that outlawed slavery 20 years from now might not mean that, right? We should go by the original intent of the framers of the Constitution and the original intent of those who amended the Constitution. We need to look at what their intent is when they wrote it to see what it's supposed to mean. We shouldn't be saying, well, there wasn't gay marriage back then, and gays didn't have any rights back then, and we didn't really, gays didn't really do anything back in the 1700s. It was always in the closet, and so the Constitution doesn't speak to that. We should write that in the margins. We should rule that they should have that right, because they should have that right. But that's not the role of the court. That's the role of Congress. That's the role of the Senate. That's the role of the president, and that's the role of the individual states. And what the Democrat Party wants, what Joe Biden wants, certainly, is someone who looks like America. A black woman, for some reason, is going to... They kept saying, on Fox News yesterday and on CNN, they kept saying, they had these pundits coming on saying, yeah, but it should be a group that looks like America, so she can call on her experiences as a black woman. You're not there to call on your experiences as a black woman any more than Clarence Thomas is there to call on his experience as a black man, or Amy Coney Barrett is there to call on her experiences as a white woman. You're there to look at the law that's being challenged and see if it comports with the Constitution or it doesn't. It doesn't matter how you grew up. It doesn't matter what your personal life experiences are. It doesn't matter what the color of your skin is. I don't care if someone's black. I don't care if they're Asian American. I don't care if they're American Indian. I couldn't care less. What I care about is what is their political philosophy? What is their judicial philosophy? Do they believe the Constitution means what it says or don't they? Right now we have 4 members of the Supreme Court who believe that the Constitution is a living, breathing document. Very scary stuff. Very scary stuff. Because again, 20 years from now, maybe women might not have the right to vote because, the times have changed and it doesn't mean that anymore, right? We can maybe own slaves again because the times have changed. That 14th Amendment might not mean what it used to mean anymore. I just want you guys just to kind of think about that a little bit. We have laws that mean what they say. Our Constitution should mean what it says. And the entire debate over whether it should be a black woman, a white guy, all of that stuff is really kind of peripheral. What they don't want you talking about is what is her judicial philosophy. Is she going to be a judicial activist? Meaning, is she going to find rights in the Constitution that aren't there because she thinks it should be a right? Or are they going to read what's in the Constitution and say, it says what it means what it says? Anyways, what else do we have here? I thought I had a couple of other things. All right, yeah, so we got 7 minutes left. Let me just bounce to the... in November, we're going to have an election in Massachusetts. all the state reps, all the state senators, and the governor are coming up for re-election. Charlie Baker stepping down as governor. Jeff Deal running to replace him. Not sure he can win. He's my friend. I hope he wins. I hope he comes to the bash. I will support him. Don't think he can beat Maura Healey. Maura Healey is really kind of the anointed one at this point. Although, you never know. We didn't think Martha Coakley was going to screw up and lose that election against Scott Brown, and she did. So you never know. Anything can happen. But right now it looks like it's Maura Healey. Let's see. Pavel Payano, who's going to be here next week, is running for state senate in the newly carved state senate district, which includes Lawrence and Methuen and a few other communities, Haverhill, I think. He is running, at least so far, against Una Ziegler. So you have a black Methuen city councilor running against a black woman city councilor of Methuen running against a male Latino city councilor in Lawrence, at least so far. I'm sure there's going to be more people jumping into that race. This is a district, as is the state rep district that we're going to talk about in a second. This is a district that was carved for a minority candidate. Again, it's racism. We shouldn't be carving candidates for white people. We shouldn't be carving districts for non-white people. We should be equally carving districts so that everybody is equally represented. That's just me, but I don't have any say in any of this. I think Pavel Payano is the front runner going into this. It is a mostly Latino district. It's a mostly minority district, but mostly a Latino district. But you know what? Una Ziegler, she's got a lot of goodwill in Methuen, and she's a good person. Like, I can't say that about too many Methuen officials. In fact, I can't really say that about very many of them at all, maybe one or two. But she's actually a really good person. And she's not one of these people that throws bombs at the meetings. She's not one of these people looking to humiliate the mayor on a regular basis, no matter what he does, right or wrong. She's not one of these people that plays the politics behind the scenes, the petty politics of who's on this side and who's on that side. And I think because of that, she's got a lot of goodwill going into this election. And I think a lot of people are going to support her because of that. I don't know where she stands on issues. I assume because she's kind of a left-wing Democrat that we're opposite in our philosophies. But I'm going to try and get her on the show as well. Problem is she works during the day. She works for the city of Haverhill. Sorry, wrong. Again, 3 in a row. She works for the city of Lowell. So during the day, it's going to be hard to get her here, but I will try. Also, a newly carved state rep seat, thanks to our good friend Marcos Devers, who has to get reelected, by the way, in Lawrence. He was on the redistricting committee. There's a new state rep district that includes Lawrence, Methuen, and then it's a weird district. It's got a part of like Ipswich and Essex. That is also a minority carved district. You have the Latino homeowner, Estela Reyes, city councilor in Lawrence, running for that seat. She's the current District B city councilor, who's running against the white non-homeowner who lives in his mom's basement, Jim McCarty, who is one of the central district councilors in Methuen. I can't tell you how much I am looking forward to that race. I am so looking forward to this race. I can't even tell you. I'm more excited about this than I am the governor's race, and probably just about any other race coming up this year, except for maybe Diana DeZoglio. To watch a white guy try to run against a Latino woman in a minority district, especially a white guy who uses the racist phrase against Latinos, Latinx. And we have talked about that on the show. I've written editorials about it. I think you guys know how I feel. But you should hear how the people in Lawrence feel when I bring up, hey, what do you think about Democrats calling you guys Latinx? Sometimes I have to duck. Like, they throw things at me just by bringing it up. So it's going to be interesting to see how he's going to handle that as a white guy who lives in his mom's basement, who's not a homeowner, who doesn't pay taxes, running against a Latina woman from Lawrence who is a homeowner, who does pay taxes. And I think their political philosophy is probably going to be pretty similar. But he plays dirty, right? He's one of these people who likes to throw bombs at people, and he plays dirty. So it's going to be very interesting to see. It's going to be a very interesting race, that state rep race. And you know what? Jim McCarty won't come on the show, but he is welcome to come on the show either by Zoom or to come into the podcast. I will have him on, and I will try to treat him as well as I treat anybody else. Although that's going to be hard for me, anyways. But I'll do it because I do it for you guys. I don't do this for me. I do it for you. Also, Diana DeZoglio running for state auditor. I haven't heard anybody else running for that race yet. And I tend to think that Diana had a heads up that her Senate district was changing. Because when she decided really early to run for a state auditor, I was like, yeah, but this is your job for life if you want it. The state Senate seat is yours. Like, who can beat you in North Andover? Who can beat you in Methuen? Nobody. And she didn't say anything. She chuckled, and she said, yeah, but this is what I'm going to do. And come to find out about a month later, they totally butchered her district. So I think she's got a good shot at it. We will talk. We'll do some updates as we get closer and closer to the election. I do appreciate that Mayor Mayor Perry jumped on today, and always happy to give his side if he's got a side to give. Although it would be better if he came here to give his side, because then you can kind of get like a little bit of a back and forth. But he's afraid of me now. Because now I'm not kissing his ass anymore. Now I'm asking real questions, right? Now there's been a little bit of a breakup. Now I'm a little bit, His biggest beef with me is that I'm not fair. So now I'm trying to be fair with him, but he won't come on now that I'm being fair, right? So I guess that's it. We've got a minute and a half left. We'll thank our sponsors. Melvin Taylor will be at the Bash this year. Eric Spagnoli also will be at the Bash this year. We are looking for sponsors for some of our scholarship kids. I also want to thank Kelly Burchell. I know, believe I'm saying it, but I'm saying it. I want to thank Kelly Burchell and her husband, Debo, who bought they sponsored 4 veterans tables for the Bash this year. We let veterans in for free, but we try to get somebody to sponsor it so we actually so we don't lose the money for all the other stuff we're trying to do. So I want to thank Kelly and Debo for that. I guess you can roll up, Mel. And that's the end of the show. Did it all in one breath, I guess. Next week, it won't be like this. Next week, we're going to have a good show. Next week, we're going to have Pavel Payano here. And I'm going to ask him questions about Latinx. And I'm going to ask him questions about, is voter ID racist? And, some of those things that I think if he takes a middle position on, he easily walks away with this election. But I'm not too sure he's going to take a middle position on all this stuff. So let's see what happens. He's a good kid, I'll tell you that. I've known him since he went to the Frost. My mom was the school nurse at the Frost School for 20 years. And I used to go in and I used to hang out with her once in a while. And Pavel, when he was in 5th and 6th grade, used to come in and chat with my mom. So I knew his dad. His dad and I go way back. Sounds like Melvin Taylor says we got to go home, so hopefully my voice will be better for next week.
I'm sure you'll be fine.
He says to go home. There's what he says. So go home already.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.